Hey, God in heaven. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
No words. No words. They should have sent a poet.
Hey there YouTube, welcome to JT Picks, and today I picked Jon Keith's Grow Wings. I'm gonna start the review by going off on a limb and saying that Jon Keith's Grow Wings is the greatest Christian album ever made. For me, this is true because it transcends genres. Like Jon has said in the past, it's not a hip-hop album, but honestly, it doesn't fit in any category either. It's not necessarily a pop album, nor is it an alternative album, nor is it an R&B album. It's just an everything album. It literally has everything, but it's Christian. The project is all about insecurities as a believer, not feeling like you're good enough, like you're worthy of Jesus's blessings and Jesus's mercy and grace, that you're not worthy enough in his eyes. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment that not a lot of Christian artists touch on. Yeah, sure, you might have an artist here or there touch on it, but Jon Keith has consistently made songs on this topic. These struggles in your everyday faith, feeling like you're not good enough. Yeah, there are plenty of songs about wondering why things are happening to you, trying to almost explain what's happening to you. Literally, it's funny, earlier I was listening to a very old Christian song called Blessings by Laura Story. It's a song that is very good because lyrically it's all about what happens when we think God isn't there. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise, that God really is there and that the struggle brings us closer to him. But see, the thing about this Jon Keith project is that it doesn't really force you to that conclusion. It naturally brings you along. I'm not saying anything bad about the Laura Story song. That's an amazing song, by the way. But this Jon Keith album provides that answer at the end of the day. It just does it in a much more subtle way. I love how the album constantly switches between God speaking to Jon or the listener and Jon or the listener speaking back to God. And it's this constant back and forth, and nowhere is this more apparent than Flowers. The track literally has God speaking to Jon. He says, "You've been talking to walls, you've been living inside." And in Jon's amazing verse, he literally goes, "I've been living inside, I've been talking to walls." It's just funny. It's that subtle idea that God is there. God sees him in everything he's doing, even though Jon may not feel that way. And I just think that all those subtle little hints that once you really break it down, they aren't very subtle, but realizing those things is really incredible and great. On top of the subject matter of the album, which is done in a way that honestly, one of my very small critiques is that it isn't 150% clear. It does require some digging to understand fully what it's saying. There were a lot of times where I had to revisit songs and be like, okay, what is it saying here? Who's speaking? Who's the audience? Is this God? Like for Chasing, for example, I had to do that a lot for the song Chasing, which is probably my least favorite song of the album. Sorry. It's not a bad song by any means. Just there's the lyrical element, then there's the musical element. Once again, not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Just, you know, when you have an album comprised of just non-stop heavy hitters, you gotta pick the weakest. And to me, that was clearly Chasing. I feel like Chasing just musically even has an element where it's like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely spectacular. And with Chasing, it was like the whole time I was just like looking for that thing that would make me go, oh my gosh, this is spectacular. And I was like, I couldn't find it. Although with more listens, I came to appreciate Chasing more. For example, I love the whole, I think it's a theremin that's used behind the verses. You can especially hear it when Taylor Hill is singing, which by the way, he does a great feature. As with most of the features on the project, they do a really good job with Jon. Madison Ryan Ward on call, she's Beautiful vocals, gorgeous vocals. Love that song so much. Such a beautiful song and a great example of God talking to us and how sometimes we don't see God. I love it at the end. It supports what I was saying earlier about how sometimes we don't feel like God is there. How in the end, Madison and John are singing as God and they're saying, we ain't even fighting, you ain't even fighting. So like, we're talking, you ain't fighting, you ain't reading what I'm writing. And it's like, it's beautifully done. It's so ethereal too, because it's such a nice listen. On the flip side, you have songs like Only One, which on my reaction, which you can find on YouTube, I really liked it. And then, after like another listen to it, I was like, I'm not sure if this is as good as I originally thought it was. And then like a week later, it started really hitting for me. And I think that is something that this album also shows, just like how Eremos was a project where it was like, it took time with the singles No Good and stuff like that, where I heard it, wasn't a fan, and then a few weeks later I was in love with it. Here it was, I heard it, I was a fan, but I wasn't like thinking this is a 10 out of 10 song, which a lot of the songs on Grow Wings was. It was an immediate 10 out of 10. So this was like maybe an 8 out of 10. And I'm like thinking this could hit 10 out of 10. It's just missing something. But with a few more listens, I was like, hold me up, Father, would you hold me up? I'm playing with my life. And hearing the guitar melodies while I'm sleeping, and then the beam feature and like the beats. Songs that had that type of effect where at first I was like, maybe this is an 8 or an 8.5, but not a 9, not a 9.5, or not a 10. Was Only One and Last Wish. Those two songs, like I was all right with them at first, and then I was like, oh my gosh, a few weeks later, that's good. So just blown away by the amount of bangers on this project. I also want to quickly touch on Reasons. So here's the thing with Reasons. It's just a little bit better than Chasing for me. It hasn't hit yet. I don't know what about it. I think Ty Brassel's verse is excellent. I really like the aggressive quality of that song, but I don't know. On some listens of it, I'll be like super into the song and I'll be like, what? What'd you do for love? And I'll be feeling it, ready to push through another rep of my workout. If I'm doing a chore or some homework, I'm feeling the song and it's helping me. And then sometimes I'm just like tempted to hit the skip button like I would with Chasing. It's not a bad song, not even close. It's like, I think I gave it like an 8.5, but it's just missing something for me. I don't know exactly what. Friends was an amazing interlude. I treated it as an interlude because it's a really short track. I think it's like 2 minutes. I don't know the exact time right now. I always end up at like recording my videos, saying a time for a song, and then looking at the actual song and going, oh my gosh, I was off. But I treated it more as an interlude. So as an interlude, it's a 10 out of 10. As a song, obviously it's missing something because it's really just call your friends over and over and over and over and over. The love of God is at your hands. Call your friends. Like, it's not, to me, it's not a complete song, but I don't think that was the point. I don't think it was trying to be a complete song. So because of that obvious intention, I can kind of forego how I would treat a full song. Anyways, the production is really lit on that song, but I need to talk about the instant 10s on the project, which there were quite a few. First of all, the singles, like, they were all 10s. So Eyes on Us, 10 out of 10 song. Call, 10 out of 10 song. Won't Fly, Jesus at My Door, 10 out of 10 song. And here's the thing, actually, that one got better with the album's release. Like, they're all 10 out of 10 songs. They don't need any improvement. But oh my gosh, it got so much better with the release. Because I remember listening to it before the album came out and I was like, oh, this is so good. And I was really feeling it, right? I was like, musically, this is perfect. I love the lyrics and everything. But then, like, once the album came out and I started listening to it with the album, I would get goosebumps every time Won't Fly plays. I mean, seriously, like, my sister, I would sit at the table listening to the song and she'd be like, Joe? And I just look at her, like, slowly, and then I'd look back and she'd be like, oh, you're listening to that song again, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I can tell you got goosebumps. So That's my Goosebumps song right now. Editor's note here, I wanted to quickly mention the ending of Won't Fly. I really love how John Keith can strike a perfect balance between having a bittersweet ending, really. He does such a good job of that. He did that on his last album with Remedy and Trying, and he does that here with Won't Fly, Jesus at My Door, where if you do acknowledge that you have insecurities and you have fears and you have struggles, only then can you begin to move past them. And I think that's a pretty healing message. But my top three, this is my Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, if they were all on a team together. Safe, Beautiful, Flowers. Those songs like Instant Love, Always Love. Justin Bieber's album dropped yesterday. Daisies and Beautiful, they borrowed from each other. Like, Daisies is MKG production, sprinkled with the idea from Beautiful and a smidge of Flowers, and boom, you got Daisies. Sorry for that mention of Justin Bieber's album. I have to do that because I'm not really gonna make a full-on review of that. Beautiful is an amazing song. I did not think that John Keith could go down a route like that and that it would work, and for it to not only work but be like one of the best tracks on the album is mind-blowing. I mean, I'm like going around my house kicking my feet up.
Strings, they bleeding me out, but I do it again. I'm stepping in down if it's on again.
I'm going crazy with it. I love it. I love it so much. Flowers, I've cried like 3 times to that song. Beautiful song. In my live reaction, I explained the meaning of that song to me, and as I mentioned earlier, the lyrics have only gotten better with time. And then finally, Safe. That song is perfect, first of all. The way that it takes this hip-hop element, you have John Keith's one verse, and he has this like really good flow, especially at the end where he's like,
I was 17 when my heart got broken. I was only 11 when I gave up on hope. I was 27 when I first down 988, and I flaked in a moment.
oh my gosh, that's so good. And then you have the whole like orchestral like,
Heavenly Father, would you even bother with someone like me?
Rising, music crescendoing into so good. Really perfect right there.
So I haven't mentioned the song No Hands with Jon Bellion yet, and that is because that wasn't an immediate 10. It actually took a few listens for it to become an actual 10. At first I was like, man, there's not enough going on. Lyrically, it's a little bit confusing. I think it actually supports what I was saying earlier, that it is hard sometimes to differentiate who's talking, because I originally thought that the chorus of the song was God talking to us, and that the verse was John saying, this is what God says to me, but you know, like, it's still from my perspective, not God's perspective. When I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, what is Jon Bellion saying? They can set my life on fire, they can do this, they can do that. That can never happen to God. God doesn't have a life that you can set on fire with kerosene. You can't put hexes on God. So I mean, that in itself doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. But regardless of the lyrics not being 100% as easy to decipher who's speaking to who, I still think that the song is very beautiful. The worship element of the song is still there, even though it takes a second to really discern and understand. If it's God saying to us, no one can take you out of my hands. Or, Lord, No One Can Take Us Out of Your Hands. That, along with the beauty of the song, the electric guitar, all the music and instrumentation on that particular track, really, that instrumentation is found all over the album. It's very diverse in its sound. You'll have aggressive synths in Reasons. You'll have guitar melodies in Only One. You'll have this beautiful minimalistic 80s R&B type tune in No Hands, which I love the little guitar at the end, the Wow, it's all going like that's so pretty. That's so good. I love it. It just, at first I was like, man, this is a 9 out of 10. A week later I'm like, nope, this is a 10 out of 10. It's a great song. And then you have the chillness of Call, the complete pop of Eyes on Us, with the drum, the catchy lyrics that
God got eyes on us.
Last Wish is a vibe. Beautiful, which is another one that's just the complete poppiness of it.
I say it's changed.
That's so good. Flowers, another beautiful. Just the instrumentation on the entire project, regardless of the genre it's doing, there's something always going on, and it's beautiful, and it's wide. It's so deserving of all this praise that I'm giving it. There's literally not one negative that I can give this album. And for the track that opens the album, and once again, it's not really a track, it's just an intro, and you know I hate intros. I wanted to give it a 9.5, but I was like, you know what, John seems to be taking notes from me. He validated that intro's existence by having it transition perfectly into Safe, which does this to the listener. Oh, that song perfectly transitions into this song that I really like. So now I have to listen to both of them in conjunction every single time, and I cannot ever listen to one by itself. Seriously, that's the case with me. This is a perfect album narratively, because although it doesn't have too focused of a story like Eremos does, which, like, Eremos is so specific. And I mean, technically, in some ways, this album can be specific too, right? It's about the insecurities, not feeling like you're worthy of Jesus's love and all that. But, like, the idea of growing wings, and that is not as something that was as together as, let's just say, Eremos and the idea of the butterflies and all of that going together. You actually had stuff like motifs in Eremos. However, I would go as far to say that this project is better than Eremos. I know there are some people who are like, no, Eremos is better. It was a much longer project. B, this one is more focused in comparison, sonically and narratively, if you really think about it, because it's so easy to mess up something like this. He's trying to be not as specific and straight to a story, but he's still keeping every single track related to the theme. Like, not a single track was left out of the theme. You can find a way to say, if the theme of the album is insecurities with faith, you can find a way to take every single track and relate it back to that theme. Not one track will be out. Like, if you think, oh, what does Friends have to do with that? Well, Friends is about, since everybody has their struggles, check on your friends, because everybody has their insecurities, and sometimes their insecurities might get them to do something, so just check on them. Related, boom. In the end, I think that this is a beautiful album, and when I did the scoring for this album, the score was actually 1.7 away from securing a 10 out of 10. 1.7. So technically, this album should receive a 9.5. However, it's my channel, so I'm just gonna give it a 10. This is the first album that, and okay, remember, first full-length album that received a 10 out of 10 is All Things Work Together and Heathen. Those are full-length albums, because everything else that's received a 10 out of 10 is EPs. But neither of those had review videos, and neither of those were underneath the time my channel has started. as in I did not do a video on those, like specifically reviewing them. This is the first ever album that I'm going to just give a 10 out of 10 because it's so good. I don't think any other project this year is going to top it. When I have an AOTY video, I'm pretty sure that this is gonna be one and nothing's gonna top that. Even my love for Justin Bieber won't top that. It's truly a spectacular, spectacular album in every sense of the word. It's almost like everything that I had said about Eremos was done with this album. Remember I said, you need something that will make you as the listener return to every track. Something was done, either a technique with catchiness, a musical technique, something different like with Flowers and the whole middle having the super poppy section. Something was done with every track and it's just right. When you make a super long album, you can make tons of mistakes. When you make super short albums, you can't make tons of mistakes because one mistake might just like majorly tank your score. So John Keith did not have a lot of room to mess up. This had to be very intentional every single track, and the intention was met and met well. So yeah, 10 out of 10, probably the greatest Christian album. If you have a better Christian album, put it down in the comments because I want to know what would be a better Christian album than Grow Wings. I don't think there is any. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like, please subscribe, and remember there's only two things I know. I know that Jesus is king and that JT knows best. See you guys next time.